Marcus Hayes wiped the grease from his hands as he tucked his daughter into bed for the second time that night. Emma's small fingers clutched her stuffed rabbit, her eyes already heavy with sleep. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic on the Chicago streets below. He kissed her forehead, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo, and wondered, not for the first time, if he was doing enough. The phone on his belt vibrated. 4 a.m. emergency call. He hesitated, looking down at Emma's peaceful face, then carefully closed her bedroom door. Marcus had been fixing electrical problems since he was 16, learning the trade from his uncle in the South Side. Now, at 32, he ran his own small operation, Hayes Electric, just him and his truck. Emma had arrived 5 years ago, unexpected and perfect, her mother leaving before Emma's first birthday. Marcus never talked about that. He focused on what mattered, keeping the lights on, literally and figuratively. He kept his rates fair, his work honest, and his daughter safe. The emergency calls paid triple, and rent was due in a week. He checked on Emma one more time, then called Mrs. Chen from across the hall. She appeared in her robe, kind-faced and understanding as always. "Go," she said simply. "I'll listen for her." The address took him to a part of Chicago he usually only saw from the highway, Lincoln Park, where the old mansion stood behind iron gates and security cameras tracked every movement. The brownstone he pulled up to was 5 stories of pristine brick and limestone, lights blazing from every window except, apparently, the ones that mattered. A woman stood on the front steps in an expensive silk blouse and slacks, her dark hair pulled back, her phone pressed to her ear. Even at 4 in the morning, she looked like she'd just stepped out of a boardroom. "You're the electrician." She ended her call without saying goodbye. "The entire 3rd floor is out. I have a video conference with Singapore in 3 hours." Marcus grabbed his toolbox. "Let's take a look." Her name was Victoria Ashford. He knew that because he'd seen her face on a billboard downtown. Ashford Technologies, something about AI and medical diagnostics. She led him through a foyer bigger than his entire apartment, past artwork he was afraid to look at too closely, up a sweeping staircase. She moved fast, efficient, her heels clicking on the hardwood even at this hour. No wedding ring, no photos on the walls, just expensive emptiness. The 3rd floor was her office, floor-to-ceiling windows, 3 massive monitors, papers everywhere. "I was working," she said, as if that explained 4 a.m. Everything just went dark. Marcus opened the electrical panel. Old wiring, beautiful on the outside, but a mess where it counted. Someone had done amateur work, probably trying to save money. He found the problem in 15 minutes, a failed circuit that had nearly started a fire. "You've got a serious issue here. This needs to be completely rewired. If you'd kept working, you could have had a real problem." Victoria stared at him. "How long? To do it right? 2 days? Maybe 3. "I don't have 3 days." "Then you don't have electricity." He said it quietly, without judgment. He'd learned that people with money weren't used to hearing no, but they respected it when you meant it. She was silent for a long moment, her jaw tight. Then she nodded. "What do you need?" They worked out a schedule. He'd start tomorrow, today, technically, and work in stages so she could still use parts of the house. She offered him twice his usual rate. He took it. Emma needed new shoes. As he packed his tools, Victoria walked him to the door. "You have kids?" she asked suddenly. He stopped. "A daughter. 5. "Who's watching her right now?" "My neighbor." Victoria's expression shifted, something softer appearing beneath the executive armor. "I'm sorry. I didn't think about that when I called." "It's okay. It's the job." She looked like she wanted to say more, but instead just nodded. "Tomorrow, then." Marcus arrived at 8 a.m. sharp, after dropping Emma at kindergarten. Victoria answered the door herself this time. No makeup, hair still damp, wearing jeans and a simple sweater. She looked younger, more real. She led him upstairs and left him to work, disappearing into a room down the hall where he could hear her voice, sharp and decisive, managing whatever empire she'd built. He worked steadily, pulling old wires, installing new ones. Around noon, she brought him coffee without asking how he took it. She'd guessed right. Black, 2 sugars. "Thank you," he said. "You're welcome." She lingered in the doorway. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure. Do you like what you do?" He considered the question. "Yeah, I do. There's something satisfying about fixing things, making something work that was broken." "I used to feel that way." She said it so quietly he almost missed it. Then she was gone. The pattern repeated over 3 days. Marcus would arrive, work in sections, and Victoria would orbit nearby, always busy but somehow present. He noticed she was always working, always on a call, always fixing problems for other people. He never saw her eat. He never saw her relax. On the second day, he asked, "You live here alone?" "Yes. Big house for 1 person. I bought it for the office space." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "That's what I tell myself anyway." On the 3rd day, Emma's school called. Fever. Marcus apologized, explained he'd have to leave early. Victoria overheard. "Bring her here," she said. "What?" "You're almost done, another few hours. Bring her here. She can rest in one of the guest rooms." Marcus hesitated. Victoria added, "I have a daughter too. I had one. She's grown now, 23, lives in New York. We don't." She trailed off. "There's a room upstairs with a daybed. It's quiet." He picked Emma up from school, her small body warm with fever, her eyes glassy. She clutched her rabbit and didn't complain. When they arrived at the brownstone, Victoria met them at the door with children's fever medicine, the good kind, the expensive kind that actually worked. "I keep it for emergencies," she said, which made no sense since she lived alone. Emma looked up at the grand staircase with wide eyes. "Is this a castle?" Victoria's face transformed, a real smile, the first Marcus had seen. "Sort of. Want to see the tower?" She led Emma upstairs while Marcus finished the wiring. He could hear their voices, Victoria reading a story, something about a brave rabbit, Emma's soft laughter. When he checked on them an hour later, Emma was asleep, Victoria sitting beside the bed, her hand resting gently on Emma's arm. "She's beautiful," Victoria whispered. "Thank you. I missed so much of my daughter's childhood. I was always working." Her voice caught, always building something, and then she was grown, and I didn't really know her anymore. Marcus didn't know what to say, so he just stood there, present. Victoria looked up at him. "You're a good father, I can tell. I'm trying. That's all we can do, isn't it? Try." The wiring was finished by evening. Marcus tested every circuit, checked every connection. Perfect. Victoria paid him in cash, adding an extra 1,000. "For Emma's college fund," she said when he protested. He should have left then. But Emma woke up feeling better and Victoria offered them dinner. "Just pasta," she said, "nothing fancy." They sat in her enormous kitchen at a small table tucked in the corner, the only place that felt lived in. Emma talked about kindergarten, about her friend Sophie, about the rabbit in the story Victoria had read. Victoria listened like Emma was the most important person in the world. After dinner, Marcus carried Emma to the truck. She was falling asleep again, content. Victoria walked them out. "Thank you," she said, "for your work. Thank you for taking care of Emma." "It was my pleasure." She hesitated. "Marcus, His phone rang. Another emergency. He checked the number, apologized. "I have to take this." "Of course, go." He drove away, watching her in the rearview mirror, standing alone in front of that massive house. 2 weeks passed. Marcus thought about Victoria more than he wanted to admit. The way she'd looked at Emma, the sadness in her voice when she talked about her daughter, the loneliness that seemed to fill every room of that beautiful house. He told himself it was none of his business. She was a billionaire. He was an electrician with a 5-year-old and a mortgage. Different worlds. Then his phone rang at 3 a.m., Victoria's number. "Marcus? I'm so sorry to call. I didn't know who else. There's smoke. I can smell smoke." He was dressed and moving before she finished the sentence. "Get out of the house, right now. Call 911. "I already did. But Marcus, I'm scared." "I'm coming. 10 minutes. He made it in 8. Fire trucks were already there, firefighters moving through the house. Victoria stood on the sidewalk in a coat over her pajamas, her face pale. When she saw him, something in her expression broke. "I thought I was going to lose everything." "What happened?" "I don't know. I woke up and smelled smoke. They found it. An old wire in the basement. Not part of what you fixed. The fire chief said if I'd been asleep another 20 minutes. She didn't finish. Marcus put his arm around her shoulders without thinking. She leaned into him, shaking. They stood like that while the firefighters worked, while the sun started to rise over Chicago, while the world kept spinning. The fire chief came over eventually. "You're lucky, minimal damage, but you can't stay here tonight. We need to make sure everything's safe." Victoria nodded numbly. Marcus said, "You can stay with us." She looked up at him. "What?" "It's not much, but it's safe, and you shouldn't be alone right now." "Marcus, I can't." "Yes, you can." Emma was thrilled to have a guest. She insisted Victoria sleep in her room, offering up her bed with the generosity only a 5-year-old could manage. Victoria tried to protest, but Emma was already gathering her stuffed animals, arranging them carefully. "This one's the best for nightmares," she said seriously, handing Victoria the rabbit. "His name is Mr. Hops." Victoria took the rabbit, her eyes bright with tears. "Thank you, Emma." Marcus made up the couch for himself. Mrs. Chen brought over extra blankets, asking no questions, just squeezing his shoulder knowingly. Victoria sat at his small kitchen table, looking lost in her expensive pajamas and borrowed coat. He made tea. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. In the morning, Emma climbed into Victoria's lap during breakfast, chattering about her upcoming dance recital. Victoria listened, really listened, asking questions and laughing at Emma's dramatic reenactment of the choreography. Marcus watched them and felt something shift in his chest. Recognition, maybe, or possibility. Victoria stayed 3 days while repairs were made to her brownstone. She insisted on paying rent. Marcus refused. They argued about it good-naturedly while Emma played mediator, suggesting they share the toys instead. On the second night, Victoria cooked dinner, something complicated and delicious that left Marcus's kitchen smelling like a restaurant. On the third night, they ordered pizza and watched Emma's favorite movie, squished together on the small couch. When it was time for Victoria to go home, Emma cried, "I don't want you to leave." Victoria knelt down, eye level with Emma. "I don't want to leave either, but I'll visit. Is that okay?" "Promise?" "I promise." She kept that promise. At first, it was once a week, Sunday dinners at Marcus's apartment or at her house, then twice a week. Then she started appearing at Emma's dance recitals, at school events, fitting herself into the spaces of their life. Marcus told himself it was friendship, just friendship, but the way she looked at him when Emma wasn't watching, the way his heart jumped when her number appeared on his phone, that wasn't friendship. 3 months after the fire, Victoria invited them to a gala for her company. "It's a fundraiser for children's hospitals. I thought Emma might like to see the venue. It's at the aquarium." Emma's eyes went huge. "There's fish?" "So many fish." Marcus didn't own a suit. Victoria offered to buy him one. He refused. They argued. He won by pointing out he had a perfectly good suit from his uncle's funeral 5 years ago. It still fit. Mostly. The night of the gala, Emma wore a blue dress that Victoria had bought despite Marcus's protests. She looked like a princess, spinning in circles in his living room. Victoria arrived to pick them up in a car with a driver, wearing a black dress that made Marcus forget how to speak. She smiled at his expression. "You clean up nice yourself." The aquarium was transformed. Lights everywhere. Music playing. Chicago's wealthiest moving through rooms filled with glowing tanks. Emma pressed her face to the glass, amazed by the sharks and stingrays. Victoria held her hand, pointing out different species, and Marcus followed behind, feeling out of place but somehow exactly where he was supposed to be. People kept approaching Victoria. colleagues, donors, people who wanted her attention. She was polite but brief, always returning to Emma, to Marcus. An older woman in diamonds asked, "Is this your family, Victoria?" Victoria glanced at Marcus. He saw the question in her eyes, the vulnerability. He stepped closer, his hand finding the small of her back. "We're working on it," he said. The woman smiled knowingly and moved on. Victoria turned to Marcus, her eyes searching his face. "Did you mean that?" "Yeah, I did." "I'm scared," she whispered. "I'm scared I'll mess this up. I messed up everything with my daughter. I worked instead of living and now she barely calls. I don't want to do that again, but I don't know how to be different. You're already different. Look at you." He nodded toward where Emma was tugging on Victoria's hand, trying to show her something in the reef tank. "You're here. You show up. That's what matters." "It's enough? It's everything." Emma pulled them both to the glass, pointing excitedly at a sea turtle. Victoria lifted her up so she could see better, laughing as Emma squealed with delight. Marcus watched them, his heart full of something he hadn't felt in years. Hope, maybe. Or trust. The real test came a month later. Emma got sick. Really sick. Not the kind of fever that passes with medicine and rest, but the kind that sends you to the emergency room at midnight. Marcus called Victoria from the hospital, trying to keep his voice steady. "I'm sorry. I know it's late. I just needed to. I'm on my way." She arrived 20 minutes later, still in her work clothes, her hair wild from running. She found Marcus in the waiting room, his head in his hands. "Any news?" "They're running tests. They think it might be appendicitis." Victoria sat beside him, taking his hand. They waited together in silence until a doctor emerged to confirm the diagnosis. Emma needed immediate treatment. Marcus signed papers with shaking hands. Victoria stood beside him, steady and certain. The procedure went well. Emma recovered in a hospital room with cartoon murals on the walls, groggy but okay. Victoria had brought Mr. Hops. She tucked the rabbit into bed beside Emma, smoothing her hair back. "You were so brave," she murmured. Emma smiled sleepily. "Will you stay?" "As long as you need me." Marcus watched them from the doorway. This woman who had everything except what she actually wanted, and his daughter who gave love so freely. Victoria looked up and saw him. Their eyes met, and he saw everything he'd been afraid to hope for reflected back at him. Later, after Emma fell asleep, they sat in the uncomfortable hospital chairs and talked in whispers. "I was terrified," Marcus admitted. "When they took her back for treatment, I couldn't breathe." "I know." Victoria leaned her head on his shoulder. "But she's okay. And you did everything right. We did everything right." She lifted her head to look at him. "We?" "Victoria, I can't promise fancy houses or galas or anything like what you're used to, but I can promise I'll show up. Every time. For you and for Emma. If you want that. If you want us. I want that more than anything." Her voice broke. "I spent so many years building a company, building a fortune, and I was so lonely. And then you fixed my wiring at 4 in the morning and suddenly I could see what I'd been missing. Not the money. Not the success. Just connection. Presence. Love." He kissed her then, gentle and certain. When they broke apart, she was crying. "I don't know how to be a mother anymore. I failed at it once." "You're not failing now. You're here. That's all Emma needs. It's all I need. I'm going to mess up. So will I. We'll figure it out together." Emma stirred in the bed, reaching for Mr. Hops. Victoria got up immediately, adjusting the rabbit, checking the blanket. Marcus watched her move with such tender care and thought about all the ways love could surprise you. Arriving at 4 a.m. in the form of a desperate phone call, in the space between what you had and what you needed. A nurse came by to check on Emma, smiling at the scene. "Your daughter's doing great. She'll be able to go home tomorrow." Marcus didn't correct the assumption. Neither did Victoria. They just looked at each other and understood. 6 months later, Marcus stood in Victoria's kitchen, their kitchen now, helping Emma frost cupcakes for her 6th birthday party. Victoria was on the phone with her daughter in New York, actually talking, rebuilding something that had been broken. When she hung up, she looked lighter. "She's coming for the party," Victoria said, almost shy. "She wants to meet Emma." "That's great. I'm nervous. I know. But you're showing up. That's what counts." The party was chaos. 15 kindergartners hopped up on sugar, running through the brownstone that no longer felt empty. Victoria's daughter arrived with a gift and an uncertain smile. Marcus watched Victoria hug her, really hug her, and whisper something that made them both cry. Later, he saw them sitting together on the stairs, talking while Emma opened presents, beginning the slow work of reconnection. As the sun set and parents collected their sugar-crashed children, Emma climbed into Victoria's lap, exhausted and happy. "Best birthday ever," she announced. Victoria kissed her head. "Best year ever," she corrected. Marcus cleaned frosting off the counter, listening to his daughter's laughter, watching the woman he loved hold her like she was precious. The wiring he'd fixed all those months ago had done more than restore power. It had illuminated something neither of them knew they were looking for. That night, after Emma was asleep and Victoria's daughter had gone back to her hotel, promising to have breakfast with them in the morning, Marcus and Victoria sat on the back patio. The Chicago skyline glittered in the distance. She leaned against him, content. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For answering the phone at 4 a.m., for being patient with me, for letting me be part of this." She gestured toward the house, toward where Emma slept upstairs. "For showing me it's never too late to choose differently. You did that yourself. I just fixed some wiring." She laughed. "You fixed a lot more than that." He kissed her temple. "So did you." They sat in comfortable silence, two people from different worlds who'd found each other in the early morning darkness, who'd built something real from an emergency call and a leap of faith. Inside, Mr. Hops kept watch over a sleeping child who had two people who loved her now, instead of one. And in the morning, they'd wake up and do it all over again, showing up, choosing presents, fixing the things that mattered most. The lights of the city hummed steadily, reliable and bright, and Marcus thought about all the ways electricity worked, how it connected things, how it brought light to dark places, how it powered everything that mattered. He'd spent his whole life understanding circuits and currents, but it had taken a 4 a.m. emergency to teach him the most important lesson. Sometimes the most powerful connections are the ones you never see coming, the ones that happen when you're just trying to do your job, to be decent, to show up when someone needs you. Victoria's hand found his in the darkness. He held on tight, and the current between them flowed steady and sure.